back to BLOCKTV. It's time for Cryptonomics, where we look at the major developments on the financial side of the blockchain and digital asset space. At 1 p.m. UTC today, that's 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange and services company, Binance, starts trading in its new San Francisco-based exchange, offering up 7 cryptocurrencies to citizens in 37 states in the U.S. With me in the studio to break down this major development is BLOCKTV's Asher Westrop-Evans. Asher, thanks for being here.
Pleasure.
So Binance, again, the world's biggest crypto exchange in terms of volume, is opening up a new branch. I mean, we've known about this for weeks to come, but today trading begins. How big of a move is this?
Look, it's big and it's small, Ron. I mean, previously they were open to US traders in the past, and they closed that down in order to be more regulatorily compliant, something that's a big focus of Binance. They're aiming to push into the global market, but also be really compliant with all regulatory standards, which means they've done this slowly, carefully, and considerately in a lot of different ways. There's been a lot of questions raised about how this particular launch is taking place, some of the specific details, and in keeping with their PR tradition, normally for the mainstream Binance stuff, you get CZ, the CEO, up on stage, and here we've got Binance US CEO, Catherine Coley, the newly minted CEO of Binance US, taking to Reddit with an AMA just yesterday to answer some of the big questions. We can take a look at some of what she had to say, notably, sort of some excitement about the launch. Let's take a listen.
We'll be launching tomorrow trading. We'll be going live across Bitcoin, BNB, Ethereum, Litecoin, XRP, and Tether across USDT and USD pairs. And then the following day, we just announced that this morning, that we'll be offering trading on Wednesday in ADA, Lumens, BAT, Ethereum Classic, and ZRX. So we're going to continue to roll these out as we see fit. There's a digital asset risk assessment framework we've put in place for us to review what we think are coins that people really want to be trading, and we want to roll these out in a way that allows for liquidity for all types of users in America.
All right, so interesting stuff from her. First of all, she's noting the 7 coins initially, and then we're talking about another series of coins to be available. But relative to Binance, the mothership, so to speak, in Malta, where they've got hundreds of coins listed, this is very limited, and it's also geographically limited.
Yeah, it is very limited, and it's very particular and focused. And that, I think, again, is part of that strategy of keeping with regulatory frameworks, moving slowly as a sign to regulators and a sign to users that, look, they're thinking about each decision, they're taking each decision seriously, weighing it up carefully. They're not just throwing out any old coin that comes along. They don't want to be involved in any sort of scandalous or nefarious activities, and they're trying to keep that with regulators. But not only that, they're trying to entice users on board by firstly keeping it simple. When you open up the main Binance sort of interface, there's a lot of coins there, there's a lot to offer, and that can be confusing to new users who want to
choose which ones are good.
Exactly, what are worthwhile, what's not, and it's confusing to new users. They're trying to entice a new brand, not just the old people that they've already had, into the crypto space there in the US, and they're doing that through a number of different ways, and some very promotional activities they're doing early on. In fact, we can take a listen to what Catherine Coley had to say about that.
And we will also start from here on until November 1st, free trading. So I think one of the important things is that hurdle to entry into the market. Oftentimes the fees were something that held people back. Why would you be paying a certain percentage if you were going to be working around a very volatile asset anyways? So we wanted to offer free trading for those folks to get started. We're also offering $15 if you sign up and get your friends to sign up to trade too.
And a hoodie.
Yeah, exactly. The hoodie, exactly. All the goodies, all the sweet bag, merch galore. But no, I mean, it is. Obviously, this is very promotional stuff that they're doing. They're trying to onboard people. They're trying to get people excited and a bit of buzz. They don't want to have the sort of tepid launch that we've seen of some different other markets and new financial options and instruments that have launched in recent times. They really want this to be big. They're going for that PR move, and that's something that Binance is well known for. They cater to well.
They do it well, and they're quick on the response, and they're preemptive, as we can see here. What else did she let us in on?
So there's a very important fact that she made in this announcement. I'd say it's the key point that came out of the whole 20-minute long AMA. Rather than me explain it, let's hear from Catherine Coley directly.
Binance US is its independent entity, so we are not connected liquidity-wise to Binance.com. a lot of people will groan and say that's unfortunate, and it is. But what we're doing is really allowing for trading to take place within the borders where we're allowed to be operating. So we'll start little. This is just the beginning, really building up that liquidity based on an experience for trading that I think you'll enjoy.
So essentially, she's saying they're a startup. They're not connected to Binance Malta or Binance International. They've got their own fund in place. They're working on establishing their own liquidity. So and that's going to be interesting looking forward. How connected they are.
This is a franchise right here, if anything. And she really stressed that. When she came on, she said a lot of people wanted CZ to come on and do an AMA, but I'm the CEO of Binance US. I'm the face you're going to be seeing in relation to this, and this is a key part of the business strategy, sort of separating the empire, as it were, keeping things distinct, keeping things removed. For regulatory compliance, obviously, it keeps it a lot neater and tidier, particularly in the US, where that regulatory framework is much grayer, much less clear. It keeps everything domestic, inbound, and stops it having to deal with those multiple jurisdictional issues. Also potentially protecting the parent company from any regulatory issues should things occur and go down. But also, as you say, and as she said, it means limited liquidity. It means they're going to have to start up from scratch and go against some big players that already exist in the market. It's a big challenge.
But I mean, to be sure, I mean, they're going to be cross promoting with Binance International.
Yeah, from the advertising side, from the marketing side, and
strategy possibly.
Exactly. But interestingly, and another point that she raised, because obviously with the Binance hack that we saw earlier this year, people are concerned about insurance, about protection. And she had specifically addressed the issue of SAFU funds and making sure that they have some insurance protection. Let's take a listen to what she had to say there.
Yes, so your funds are SAFU, SAFU, however you call it, tomato. But the Binance US, as being a partner to Binance, we are able to address this insurance in a useful and pragmatic way through this type of fund. And so it's a component that we saw at Binance for the security of the funds and its use, allocating a portion of the trading fees to protect the customer funds. And that's something that we'll adopt here in the US as well. So really looking forward to providing some of those key features that have really been well adopted by the world, and we'll bring them here in-house to the US.
All right, so that's kind of interesting because doesn't that just counter the point you made a bit earlier?
Doesn't it, Ron? I mean, if you're seeing it, I'm also seeing it. I mean, there was an interesting distinction there. We're very separate from Binance Mothership. We're our own brand. We have our own liquidity. We're removed. But also our partners at Binance will ensure that your funds are secured. And it seems a little having your cake and eating it too.
Fair enough.
Not sure exactly how they plan to play that out. I mean, as she said, she called them partners, with the mainstream Binance, the flagship Binance program. She's saying that they're separate, but also together. I'm not sure quite how the internal financing and structure of that works. It seems a little odd, but obviously Binance very eager to ensure that customers feel secure and safe trading with them. And as we did see with the hack earlier in the year, they responded quickly, they responded effectively. So I assume that they'll import those same mechanisms into the US market model. How that works in terms of financing and liquidity, it remains to be seen. But I guess as it grows, they will use that fund from the fees that will be gained. Although, again, notably, those fees don't happen until November. So let's pray for their sake. They've either got the SAFU fund already set up, or no one does any hacking at least until November.
You heard it here, guys. Hackers, keep your hands off at least for another few weeks.
Please let him get a chance to get the fees on board. But it's interesting, I mean, so those were sort of, I think, the key highlights from the AMA. She avoided sort of delving too deep into the weeds of competition or how they'll be.
But we're not going to avoid that. We know that if we called Binance an empire and if Binance America is a colony, there are natives in them hills, right? And what are we talking about primarily? Coinbase?
Right, certainly. Coinbase, which has worked very hard recently, probably on the back of this launch, trying to get ahead of the game, do a bit of a first mover advantage, offering a bunch of new trading pairs available on Coinbase, really trying to promote and put themselves out there and say, Coinbase, we're here, we're known, we're one of the most downloaded apps out there on iOS and Android in terms of the crypto world. Really, I mean, they have an established base and an established base advantage.
They're growing. They're listing new coins all the time. We've often talked about the Coinbase effect and what it does, listing those does to the value of those assets.
They understand the market as well as something that's important. Coinbase has been established there for a long time. They put a lot of focus and onus on their mobile applications, something that Binance has always had a bit of difficulty with, particularly the iOS, but also the Android applications. They've stayed mostly on the desktop, and that's seen as a weakness in the Binance US model. Something Catherine Crowley did briefly address that they intend to get on the mobile apps, but not part of their launch strategy, and an interesting decision for them not to do that. Wondering whether that's there's some sort of element of compliance issue, or if they're worried about trying to take on Coinbase, because they really do Coinbase control that space.
All right. Interesting how Coinbase and the other existing American-based exchanges cope with this. And all right, so from the realm of what we heard from Binance and into the realm of shall we call it speculation, what does a move like this do to the crypto markets, if anything? I mean, we're having this conversation just a day after Backed, with much fanfare, started trading. A different product, but similar expectations of rewards, which we haven't seen so far. What can we expect with Binance?
Look, I mean, it's hard to see this being a big market mover off the bat. Again, another one where it's not a case of launching to the moon day one, but potentially adding that sort of ecosystem development work that can help grow liquidity in the overall market as a whole into the future. When Binance shut down its US trading, the markets didn't react happily, but it was during that bull run of the start of 2019, and no one really was focused too much on it. But now they've returned back to the market. There'll be those who had US users who had deposits in place on Binance before, on the mainstream Binance before, when it was still available in the US, will have those deposits returned in the US app. It'll be a smooth transition, they claim. So that should provide those traders to give access back into the market and get people going. Just as you say, I mean, US users have been using Coinbase and other established exchanges for a while. Were they really hanging out for Binance?
They can even use Binance by using VPNs.
Exactly.
And proxies
It wasn't that hard to use. The no fees, I'm sure, will be very appealing. But again, I feel like that only appeals to those who are already in there. There weren't that many that were being so overwhelmingly put off. It might help change. I mean, the one element with Coinbase, they do charge relatively high fees compared to a lot of other competitors in the market, because they've got such control of that US space, and this might entice them to lower their fees, so that could have an impact on the market. But again, I feel like that's impacting established players rather than bringing new liquidity necessarily flowing into the crypto sphere.
Got it. That makes sense. All right, excellent. So obviously we're going to be keeping with this story and monitoring in the days and weeks to come. I mean, good luck to Binance America and Binance in general. Sure. Thanks very much for bringing that down with us. For those of you at home, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more blockchain and cryptocurrency related news.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.